Welcome, everybody. Put out the invite. You can come on in here. Here's the invite to come in to StreamYard. Anybody wants to. Hi, William. Hi, Phyllis, Lou. Hi, Yemi and Rule. William, device is not connected, brother. There you go. Hi, Phyllis, Lou. Hi, Yemi and Rule. I'm on to you. Hi, Phyllis, Lou. I'm on to device is not connected, Toria. Hi, Phil. Go out and try to come back in, Toria. Don't forget, we got to stay muted and Toria, stay muted and everything. You know, this is bad feedback on here. Don't muted and stay muted and everything. You know, this is. Yeah, don't forget to turn YouTube off. We have people trickle in here. Today's study in Acts is a really good one. It's gonna be intense from now on until we're done. So yeah, there's only 28 chapters, so I think we're starting on Acts 20 today. Dave, glad you're here, brother. Here's Toria. There you go, Toria. I'm gonna mute you.
Shabbat Shalom.
Everybody that wants to come in, come on in now. Yami and Rue, you want to come in? We can get 10 in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 more positions. Here comes Brother Lou. I got you muted, brother. This is, we have to make sure we all control our mics and stay muted unless we're talking. And we got to turn off YouTube. You hear the echo? Yeah, somebody's got YouTube on or something. Yeah. Here we go. Yeah, unfortunately, it's hard to, we can't hardly keep our mics on because the feedback's so bad on StreamYard. We got a few more minutes and the people are trickling in here. Phil, it might be me. You're not on here, Phil. You can come in. Just hit that link up there, StreamYard link. Here, I'll put it out there again. Just hit that link and follow the instructions into the backstage of StreamYard, and I'll see you there and I'll let you in. If you want to come on, Phil. Hope everybody's having a nice Shabbat so far. I was up late, so I kind of just barely made it in time here. Here you are, Phil.
How do I shut off YouTube?
Just exit off. Go up there where YouTube. Don't mess with StreamYard. Just go up to YouTube and exit off, just like you're shutting it off.
All right, I'll mute myself.
And then just mute yourself. Yeah. If you mute yourself, you have to unmute yourself. I can't do it for you. If I mute you, I can, turn you on and off your mic. But if you do it, you have to do it yourself. Because I can't do it. All right, come on. We got 2 more openings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 3 more. Anybody else? Dave? Doug is watching us. He'll email me and say he's watching, but he doesn't use YouTube, so he can't come on. He chooses not to come on YouTube, but he is watching and listening. Doug. Everybody knows Doug. Anybody else? Anybody got an opening statement or anything they'd like to say before we get started this afternoon? Anybody? Yami and Rule's trying to come on, so I'm waiting on, see if I can get them to come on here before we get started.
I have a question.
Yeah, Toria, go ahead.
You're going to continue to do this every Shabbat, I'm hoping?
Yeah, I'm kind of considering doing that, continuing on doing that. I'm definitely going to finish our study in Acts. And then after that, we'll see if there's enough people that want to keep doing this. I'm up for it.
I'm up for it.
I'm up for it.
Well noted. Hi, Gail. That you're in here. I'm still
Hi,
waiting.
Lady Jack.
1, 2, 3, 4. We got 2 more openings. Yami, are y'all still coming on? Still trying? Okay. Come on in, Yami. We're waiting on you to come in. Try again. You were on here last week. You should know how to do it. Just hit that link and follow instructions and come on in. Yeah, Phyllis, go ahead. Wait a minute, Toria, I'm gonna mute you. There you go. And Diane, I'll have to mute you. And okay, go ahead, Phyllis.
Oh, I didn't know. Has anybody heard anything from Rebecca Gibson? She wasn't here last week. Is she okay?
I don't know for sure, Phyllis, but I have heard that she's there's a lot of things going on with her in-laws, the elderly people she's taking care of, and I think she's consumed with that right now. If you get my drift, I don't know that much about it, but that's what I've heard.
Her mother-in-law did pass away.
Oh, okay.
She still has her father-in-law.
Okay, maybe she's still in mourning or something. I haven't seen her anywhere, so she's usually all over the place. I haven't seen her on anybody's channel, so yeah, just keep her in your prayers, and hopefully Sister Rebecca will be back soon with us. Okay, Yami, there you are.
Yeah.
All right, gotcha. I'm gonna mute you. I know Brother Tad was on last night. Hopefully he comes on today. There he is. Hi, Tad. We were just talking about you. Hopefully you can come in today. We just dropped somebody.
Gail dropped off.
Somebody else just did. Yeah, this guy's kind of weird on the phones till we get going. And I'll watch for you. Just come back in. I'll keep watch for everybody. Okay, Joseph. All right. Yami dropped. That's her phone or computer, whatever she's on. Okay, so help me keep an eye out if you see anybody trying to come on, if I don't see them. And yeah, everybody in StreamYard, kind of, if you click on that public button, you got private and public chat. If you click on the public, then you'll be able to see the chat room. And if you notice anybody asking questions, just alert me to it. All right. Okay, I guess we'll get started. I'll just keep an eye on Yami and Gail and everybody that wants to come on. Just try to come back on. That happens sometimes on StreamYard. Okay, we're going to get started now. We finished last week in the book of Acts, chapter 20. And I'll be reading out of the BYNV, and hopefully we get some volunteers to read. Anybody want to start off with chapter 20 for us? I'd like to reserve chapter 22, and I'll read 22. Can I get somebody to read 20? Chapter 20? Anybody? Somebody? Lou? Okay, Lou. Okay, Lou's going to start us out with chapter 20. There you go. I got you on mute.
Oh, you unmuted me. All right. Let's see, where were we in the context of things? Weren't we having some kind of a big uproar over idols? Yeah, the rioting. Yeah, there was the dude in charge stood up and addressed the assembly at the end of Acts 19. And he says, "For we are in danger of being accused of rioting concerning today, there being no reason which we could give to account for this disorderly gathering." And having said this, he dismissed the throng. All right, now so we're picking up with Acts 20, and that'll, hopefully I won't turn too many pages this time. All right, let's see. Acts 20. After the uproar had ceased, Paul called the Talmudim, that's the disciples, to him, and having embraced them, went away to go to Macedonia. And having gone through those parts, and having encouraged them with many words, he came to Greece, where he spent 3 months. When he was about to sail to Syria, he decided to return through Macedonia, as a plot was made against him by the Yahudim. He was accompanied by Sopater of Beroia, and Aristarchus and Secundos of the Thessalonians, and Gaius of Derbe, and Timothy, and Tychicus and Trophimus of Asia. Oh, that's a crowd, isn't it? And these going ahead waited for us at Troas. Now you have to remember, the us is Paul and his accompaniment, his fellow traveler, Luke, who's writing all this to Theophilus. And we sailed away from Philippi after the Yomim of unleavened bread, and came to them at Troas in 5 Yomim, where we stayed 7 Yomim. Now this is important right here in this region. Keep track of this unleavened bread. After the days of unleavened bread, and then and the number of days that he passed along, and then he stayed 5 days, and then he went to, and he stayed 7 days, and on the first of the Shabbats. Now that's referring to the count to Shabuoth, which is the 50th day. And on the first of the Shabbats, he's just counting after first fruits, the Talmudim having gathered together to break bread, Paul, intending to depart the next Yom, was reasoning with them and was extending the word till midnight. Their meeting began at sunset. And there were many lamps in the upper room where they were assembled. And a certain young man by the name of Eutychus was sitting at a window, being overpowered by a deep sleep. As Paul kept on reasoning, he was overcome by sleep and fell down from the 3rd level and was picked up dead. And Paul, having gone down, fell on him, and embracing him said, "Do not be upset, for his life is in him." Then going up again, And having broken bread and eaten, we talked a long while, even till yom break or daybreak, and so went forth. And they brought the young man in alive, and were encouraged not a little. And we, going ahead to the ship, sailed to Assos, intending to take Paul on board there, for so he had arranged, intending himself to go on foot. And when he met us at Assos, we took him on board and came to Mytilene. And from there we sailed, and the next yom came opposite Chios. And the next yom we sailed to Samos, and remained at Trogulion. And the following yom we came to Miletos, for Paul had decided to sail past Ephesus, so that he might lose no time in Asia, for he was hurrying to be at Jerusalem, if possible, on the yom of the festival of weeks, which is Shabuoth. That's what the word means. Shabuoth is the plural for Shabua, weeks. And when and from Miletos, he sent to Ephesus and called for the elders of the assembly. Now this part is really, really important. And when they had come to him, he said to them, "You know from the first yom that I came to Asia, how I was with you all the time, serving the Master with all humility, with many tears and trials, which befell me by the plotting of the Yahudim, as I kept back no matter that was profitable, but proclaimed it to you, and taught you publicly and from house to house, witnessing to Yahudim and also to Greeks, repentance toward Elohim and belief in our Master Yahusha Mashiach. And now see, I go bound in the Ruach to Jerusalem, not knowing what is going to meet me there, except that the Ruach HaKodesh witnesses in every city, saying that chains and pressures await me. But I do not count my life of any value to me, so that I might accomplish my mission with joy, and the service which I received from the Master Yahusha, to bear witness to the Besorah of the favor of Elohim. And now see, I know that you all, among whom I went about proclaiming the reign of Yahuwah, shall see my face no more. Therefore I witness to you this yom that I am clear from the blood of all, for I kept not back from declaring to you all the counsel of Elohim. Therefore take heed to yourselves and to all the flock, among which the Ruach HaKodesh has made you overseers, to shepherd the assembly of Elohim, which he has purchased with his own blood. The Ruach HaKodesh purchased us with his own blood. Ted? Yeah. Okay. That's wonderful. That was okay. Therefore, let's see. For I know this, that after my departure, savage wolves shall come in among you, not sparing the flock. Also, from among yourselves, men shall arise speaking distorted teachings, to draw away the Talmudim after themselves. They'll probably name their ministries after themselves. Therefore, watch, remembering that for 3 years, Lila and Yom, I did not cease to warn you, each one with tears.
Hello.
Yeah.
Would you say that this is kind of prophesying Christianity or churches in the future.
That and much more. The lies and the false teachings just keep abounding, and they've heaped up for themselves a large number of teachers. Yeah, it's Christianity. Okay, and we're going to continue on now with, okay. Therefore watch, okay. And I warned you with tears. And verse 32, and now, brothers, I commit you to Elohim and to the word of his favor, which is able to build you up and give you an inheritance among all those having been set apart. I have coveted no one's silver or gold or garments, and you yourselves know that these hands supplied my needs, and for those who were with me. All this I did show you by laboring like this, that you ought to help the weak. And remember the words of the Master Yahusha, that he said, it is more blessed to give than to receive. And having said this, he knelt down and prayed with them all. And there was much weeping among them all, and falling on Paul's neck. They kissed him, distressed most of all because of the word which he had said, that they would not see his face no more. They would see his face no more. And they went with him to the ship.
All right, thank you, Lou. Okay, so that was a lot of powerful information here in this chapter. You know, the highlights of that was I think is the declaration that, or proclamation that he had purchased us with his own blood. The assembly of Elohim, which he had purchased with his own blood. Who was that? The Ruach HaKodesh. So yeah, go ahead, Phyllis.
Somebody wants to get on. They're looking for the link. Would you put the link back out again?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. That's what I want you to do. Thanks for keeping track of all that, because I get talking and I forget to look. Now there's the link, the StreamYard link. You just click on the link and then follow the directions. It'll bring you backstage in the StreamYard, and then I'll let you in, and then make sure you get off of YouTube and stay on StreamYard. Okay, so there's the link. Just click on it and it'll help you get in here. But anyway, this being the blood of the Ruach HaKodesh is very interesting, isn't it? Because what's the Ruach HaKodesh? Is he not spirit? No. And so we say, well, how did he have blood? Right? Okay, because he transformed himself or manifested himself into flesh. So he went directly from being the Ruach HaKodesh to being manifested in the flesh and revealing himself to us. So therefore it was his blood in the manifestation. So this isn't speaking of human sacrifices as the Orthodox Yehudim mistake it as, but it is the Ruach HaKodesh's blood when he manifested himself and revealed himself to us in the messengers in the form of flesh. He came in the flesh, manifested himself into the flesh. Extremely important to understand that. You'll run up against that with Orthodox Judaism people. That's their big hang up, and why they don't believe in Yahushua HaMashiach is because they say human sacrifices are highly forbidden by Yahuwah. And so they're not understanding here that it was the blood of the Ruach HaKodesh, not human sacrifice. So it's extremely important to understand that, especially when you start to talk to some of the older brothers, right? And then the other one of the bigger highlights here is when Paul begins to prophesy about the savage wolves coming. There's that person trying to come on. Excuse me for a second. John's device is not connected. It says device is not connected. I would advise you just go out and try to come back on again. Make sure you have your camera on. There you go. There you go. You're in now. I'm going to mute you. There you go. All right. So Paul is telling us to beware of savage wolves that are among yourselves. You know, so what's that mean? They're coming out of the body, out of the assembly, and they're causing divisions or denominations. Could be a small faction inside the body that grows, gangrene spreads, right? And then they come out, divide, start their own following, and start teaching different than the Besora of Yahuwah, things like that. So Paul is forewarning this, even to the point that he's teaching that they're not sparing the flock. And so they don't really care about the flock. They just want this monetary agenda. You know, they just want to get you to follow them so they can get your monies. They got different alternative agenda and motives. This person's trying to interrupt the story. Now, mute real quickly. Johan, Mueller, stop doing that or I'm going to kick you off. All right. Okay, so I think those are the highlights. And then very interesting, down at the end of the chapter where Paul gets ready to leave. Okay, I got to get rid of him. I don't know what he's doing. Anyway, down toward the end of the chapter, where Paul's getting ready to leave, and you're never going to see me again. This last time I'm coming up here, and you know they're weeping and crying and kissing him and everything, and because they're very sad that they'll never see their friend again. Right? Is a very interesting thing too. You know, and I guess all of us take things for granted sometimes, and we don't realize what we have until we lose it, right? And so this is very interesting. We can look at it in several different ways, but in this particular example here, you know, Paul is saying his goodbyes to these people because he's probably being shown by the Ruach of a different course that he'll be taking. He's not going to be coming back to their way, you know. So they're sad to hear that. There's somebody else trying to get in. I'm going to put you on. I have to mute you so we don't get.
Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up, man. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I can't understand your language. I'm sorry. Okay, that was the same person, I think. Sounds like they were from a foreign country or something, really. But anyway, you know, very interesting chapter. A lot of stuff in there. Okay, can I get another reader for X21? Okay, Tad, go for it.
Guess I got to unmute first.
Yeah, control your own mic. If I do it, if you control it, I can't help you. You know, you have to do it yourself. But go ahead.
Okay. And it came to be when we had torn ourselves away from them and had set sail, we ran a straight course and came to Kos, and the next Yom to Rhodes, and from there to Patara. And having found a ship passing over to Phoenicia, we went aboard and set sail. And having sighted Cyprus, and having passed it on the left, we sailed to Syria, and landed at Sor, for the ship was to unload her cargo there. And having found Talmudim, we remained there 7 yomim. And they told Paul through the Ruach not to go up to Jerusalem. And when it came to be that our yomim there were ended, we left and went on, all of them accompanying us with wives and children, till we were out of the city. And kneeling down on the beach, we prayed. And having embraced one another, we boarded the ship, and they returned to their homes. And when we had completed our voyage from Tsor, we came to Ptolemais. And having greeted the brothers, we stayed with them 1 yom. And on the next yom, we left and came to Caesarea, and went into the house of Philip, the evangelist, who was one of the 7, and stayed with him. Now this one had 4 maiden daughters who prophesied. And as we were staying many yomim, a certain prophet named Kagab came down from Yehuda, and having come to us, he took the belt of Paul, bound his own hands and feet, and said, Thus says the Ruach HaKodesh, thus shall the Yahudim at Jerusalem bind the man who owns this belt, and deliver him into the hands of the nations. And when we heard this, both we and those from that place begged him not to go up to Jerusalem. And Paul answered, What do you mean by weeping and breaking my heart? For I am ready not only to be bound, but also to die at Jerusalem for the name of the Master Yahusha. And as he could not be persuaded, we ceased, saying, Let the desire of the Master be done.
Your computer get viruses and you have big problems, guys.
Sounds like some kids.
Okay. I think, let's see. I'm going to read 14 over again. And as he could not be persuaded, we ceased, saying, Let the desire of the Master be done. And after those yomim, having made ready, we went up to Jerusalem. And also some of the Talmudim from Caesarea went with us, and brought with them 1 Nason of Cyprus, an early Talmud.
You bullshit, you sad.
They have a lot of different names here, so it's kind of funny, but sorry, Dad. I have so many names I can't recognize them, but I sounds like a bunch of kids. But go ahead, Dad. I won't let them back in this time.
Okay. And I'm going to read 15 again. And after those yomim, having made ready, we went up to Jerusalem. And also some of the Talmud from Caesarea went with us, and brought with them Nason of Cyprus, an early Talmud, with whom we were to lodge. And when we had arrived in Jerusalem, the brothers received us gladly. And on the following Yom, Paul went in with us to Yakub, and all the elders came. And having greeted them, he was relating one by one what Elohim had done among the nations through his service. And when they heard it, they praised the Master, and they said to him, You see, brother, how many thousands of Yahudim there are who have believed and are all ardent for the Torah. And they have been informed about you that you teach all the Yahudim who are among the nations to forsake Musha, saying not to circumcise the children, nor to walk according to the practices. What then is it? They shall certainly hear that you have come. So do this, what we say to you. We have 4 men who have taken a vow. Take them and be cleansed with them, and pay their expenses, so that they shave their heads, and all shall know that what they have been informed about you is not so, but that you yourself also walk orderly, keeping the Torah. But concerning the nations who believe, we have written and decided that they should keep themselves from what is offered to idols, and blood, and what is strangled, and whoring.
Okay,
Then,
hang on, Dad. Can you mute yourself there, bro? So we don't get an echo. Okay, here we see this again. We've already spoken about this, but make no mistake here now. This is not what Christians get to do, and this is all they have to do. Okay, to believe and then just do this. Okay, this is not what this is saying at all. He's just recapping what's already an event that's already happened. So this is again, do no pagan rituals. And so these converts, upon hearing the Besor of Yahuwah, believed, right? And they said, oh, we want to know more. And so the decision was, okay, do no more pagan rituals and go to a congregation on Yom Shabbat and listen to the Torah and the prophets read. So you learn more about the way of the Natsarim. That's all that's going on here. Okay, this isn't a set of instructions for the Gentiles that's different from the set of instructions for the Yehudim. There's only one Torah for everybody. Okay, so just hopefully everybody gets that. Okay, go ahead, Ted.
starting in 26, then Paul took the men on the next Yom, and having been cleansed with them, went into the set-apart place to announce the completion of the Yomim of separation, until the offering should be presented for each one of them. And when the 7 Yomim were almost ended, the Yahudim from Asia, seeing him in the set-apart place, were stirring up all the people, and they laid hands on him, crying out, Men of Yisrael, help! This is the man who was teaching all men everywhere against the people and the Torah and this place. And besides, he also brought Greeks into the set-apart place and has profaned this set-apart place.
Okay, hang on, Ted. Can you mute yourself? We got to keep on these mics. So here, these are a lot of accusations against Paul, and are they true? Did Paul really do that? Did he teach all men everywhere against the people, the Yehudim, and the Torah, and this place, which would be the temple area? Was he actually doing that? And did he actually bring a Greek into the set-apart place and profane the set-apart place? Did Paul do these things that they're accusing him of doing? Why are they accusing him of these false accusations? Why are they being a malicious witness against Paul? Go ahead, Ted. Unmute yourself, brother.
I was just wondering, because it says you asked if he brought a Greek in. Now the 4 men who have taken a vow, I don't know if any of them were Greek, and so that would be my only question on that part.
Yeah, I believe they were Yehudim. It's what I'm thinking they were. If anybody else has any foresight on that, you can surely come on. But to me, it would seem like some Yehudim brethren took a vow. Now, they wouldn't be Natsarim taking this vow, right? So what would they be? I want to pull a Lou White on you here. Okay, so if I can find it in here. I don't know why I have trouble with this thing. Sometimes I find it right away. Okay, so everybody's familiar, right, with Lou's dictionary, BYNB dictionary. And so the Natsarim is a plural for Natsar. The original followers of Yahusha were the sect of the Natsarim. It's in Acts 24:5, which we haven't got to yet. The word means watchmen, guardians, and also branches. Well, I use branches. Somebody else is trying to get on. So this guy, hang on a minute. These kids are taking up space, so somebody's trying to get on. I'll kick them out. There, you can try again, whoever you were. Sorry about that. So it means I like to use branches with it. That's the main thing I use, but it does mean watchmen, guardians. We are the branches of the teachings of the root. I am the vine, you are the branches. Okay, so that's in John 15:5. Okay, so that's Natsarim. And then if they take some type of unbelievable, they got more names than Carter's got pills. So anyway, the Nazar, I think, is with these things that you mentioned, Tad, these oaths that they were these 4 people. They would be Nazar then, and an oath is an oath of separation for a specific purpose and duration. It also refers to the person under the oath. This is an entirely different word than Natsar in the Natsarim. So I think that these people were Yehudim, and they were taking some kind of oath. And so they had to shave their head to show everybody that they were under some kind of an oath, and that's why they were behaving the way they were behaving, so they didn't get in trouble with the rest of the people. They could identify, leave them alone, they've taken an oath type deal. Lou, do you have anything different on that? Is that how you see it too?
Yeah, most likely they may have been believing in Yahusha. However, they, were under the impression that, that the Nazir oath was effective because they had a temple standing and they could do that. But since there's no temple now, you can't do it, and you can't offer the sacrifices. And that custom of the Nazir oath was something that developed slowly anyway. It seemed to be adopted by the community over many centuries, and it was recognized as a very important thing for a person to do. It's over and above what Yahuwah asked us to do. And Yahusha himself instructed us not to take vows. Don't do that. It's too dangerous. And but this vow had to be incomplete, but Paul didn't break the vow, and that's good. It's just that he couldn't complete it because he was under arrest. But who the men were, I don't really know. But they were probably not well informed because they were hearing rumors about Paul, and they didn't even probably know that they were Natsarim,
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm gonna have to mute you, Lou. Yeah, they want Paul to take these men and having been cleansed with them, to show the people that Paul isn't guilty of doing these things, to make him, people realize, look, he's not a bad guy. Okay. And, they, instead, these people are really basically, attacking and his character and bringing all these false accusations against him. Why? Why are they doing that? I mean, we go on to read about they're wanting to kill him even. Why are they doing all that to this man?
Mark,
Yeah, go ahead, William.
I know he hadn't gotten to it yet, but in verse 28, when it talks about Trophimus the Ephesian, with him in the city, whom they thought that Paul had brought into the holy place, was this the Greek that we're talking about? Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead, Tad.
I think the why that they were doing this, a simple answer might be that they had now I forgot what I was going to say. the anti-Mashiach spirit, the anti-Mashiach ruach, instead of that type of spirit, and just anything that's of the truth, they were completely opposed to.
That's probably the exact reason. If he's teaching the Basora of Yahusha, right? And then these people don't believe that Yahusha was the Mashiach, which denies him coming in the flesh, manifesting himself in the flesh, the Ruach HaKodesh. What does that tell us? They're under the influence of the anti-Mashiach spirit, right? And so, yes, that could be what the answer to that question is precisely, really. Okay, there's a lot more to it. Let's go ahead and finish reading, and we'll see a lot more now as Ted continues to read.
Okay, I'm going to pick up at verse 29. Because they had previously seen Trophimus the Ephesian with him in the city, whom they assumed Paul had brought into the set-apart place. And the entire city was moved, and the people rushed together, seized Paul, and dragged him out of the set-apart place. And immediately the doors were shut. And while they were seeking to kill him, a report came to the commander of the company of soldiers that all Jerusalem was in confusion. At once he took soldiers and captains and ran down to them. And they, having seen the commander and the soldiers, stopped beating Paul. Then the commander came near and took him and commanded him to be bound with 2 chains, and was asking who he was and what he had done. And in the crowd some were shouting this and others that, and not being able to ascertain the truth because of the uproar, he commanded him to be taken into the barracks. And when he came to the stairs, he had to be carried by the soldiers because of the violence of the mob. For a large number of the people followed after, crying out, "Away with him!" And as Paul was about to be led into the compound, he said to the commander, "Am I allowed to say somewhat to you?" And he said, "Do you know Greek?" He was kind of flabbergasted that he... And you, not the Mitzrite, who some time ago stirred up a revolt and led the 4,000 assassins out into the wilderness? But Paul replied, "I am a Yahudi from Tarsus in Cilicia, a citizen of no mean city, and I beg you, allow me to speak to the people." And having given him permission, Paul, standing on the stairs, motioned with his hand to the people. And when there was a great silence, he spoke in the Hebrew language, saying, and I'll stop right there.
Okay. Thanks, Ted. All right. So interesting here that there's really no rhyme or reason why they're trying to kill Paul. You know, people are shouting different accusations at him, right? Well, he did this, he did that. So the soldiers said, let's get out of here. These people are crazy. We can't make any sense about why they're trying to kill this man. But we know that what Paul was teaching, right? He was teaching the Besorah of Yahusha. And he was telling them, look, your adult male circumcision is not a means for deliverance. Okay, it's through Yahushua HaMashiach, your Messiah now. Okay, so all that mind of the fleshly stuff is over. It's no longer effective. It's not going to help you. You need Yahushua. So for them to be wanting to kill Paul, then we know that that was his message, right? And so they weren't believing this, obviously. It's why they're trying to kill him, which means they're denying that Yahusha came in the flesh, which means they have the anti-Mashiach spirit in them. Right? Go ahead, Tad.
I think also, since Paul was teaching the Besorah of Yahusha, I'm sure he was probably using the name. And we all know that people were trying to kill, you know, that the authorities were trying to kill people for using the name.
Yeah, absolutely. That was definitely part of it. That's probably what this and others said that. That's probably what's being yelled out. You can imagine some saying, he's saying the forbidden name, you know, kill him. He's blaspheming, right? That was probably some of that going around for sure. Good point. We don't know what the this and the that was, but go ahead, William.
Yeah, I got a question for Lou. Who are the 4,000 assassins in the wilderness that he's referring to in verse 38?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't even know if there's a record of any of that, but it's mentioned in here. And of course, it is an aside. It's probably some news broadcast the guy was hearing on his Caesarea radio station or something. Yeah, he got that channel. But yeah, they were informed of things going on in the surrounding area. But I have never read anything about that. I'm sorry. But it is an interesting question. I'd love to know the answer to that.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Lou.
You bet.
You're still muted, Mark.
All right. So what we do know is that Paul wasn't the one that did this. That we know, right? Because the guard's asking Paul, "Are you the one that did this?" Right? And Paul said, "No, I'm not a Mitzrite. I'm a Yehudai. I didn't do that." Right? So the answer to that guy's question is no, Paul did not. We know that much. Go ahead, Phyllis.
I'm just trying to point out that Toria's had her hand up for some time. I didn't know if you could see her or not. You're muted, Mark. Unmute Toria so she can ask her question.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I did not see you, Toria. I am not with it this morning. I stayed up too late last night. Go ahead, Toria.
It's okay. I was thinking that there, like in Daniel's time, there was an ordinance that they were down to bow down to their gods. So I'm guessing maybe there was a widespread ordinance for them not to use the Father's name. So that's why they were out to kill whomever they used the name. Just a thought.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm sure that accusation was being thrown around too. And plus some other ones, there's no doubt, you know. I mean, he's teaching against the Torah. He's saying we don't have to be circumcised. kill him, all kinds of stuff they were saying. And Paul never talked about, told them that they couldn't be circumcised. That wasn't what he was saying to them at all. In matter of fact, he was telling them the opposite, to pay the Torah, right? And to be circumcised. But his issue was, your male circumcision does not allow you into the renewed covenant. It's not going to deliver you, right? That's what he was saying. He wasn't telling them not to be circumcised. Go ahead, Tori.
Also, the Jews of today are doing their representation of that today, that they do not use his name and they use another.
Yeah, absolutely. And they don't even believe in Yahusha anyway. You know, I mean, they believe he existed, but they don't believe he was the Messiah. They don't believe he was the Ruach HaKodesh. Excuse me, I got to bring somebody in here. Hi, Yosef. Stay muted there for a minute, brother. And yeah, we see you. Just stay muted for a minute. I'll get right to you. So I forgot. I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Somebody
About the Jews of today, that they don't.
Oh yeah, okay. So they don't even believe in Yahusha, that Yahusha's the Mashiach. So they deny him coming in the flesh. What does that mean? What does that tell us about them? These rabbis over in Israel right now teaching Orthodox Judaism, not allowing anybody to read Isaiah 53. It's the forbidden chapter. They say that's about Israel. It's not about Yahusha. They deny any type of evidence in the Torah or prophets about Yahusha, and they don't believe in him. So what does that tell us about Orthodox Judaism? Go ahead, Tad.
I'm going to say it one more time because we're back to the same thing, the anti-Mashiach spirit. And that's it.
You got it, brother. You're right on with that. Okay, let's just take a brief break right here. And hi, Yosef, Aaron. Would you like to introduce yourself? And do you have anything to say or ask or anything?
Yes, I'm using Yosef, the Hebrew version of my name. I'm Joseph Aaron, and I'm glad to be with you guys.
And we're glad you're here also. And where are you from? Are you in the United States?
Yes, I'm in Florida.
Okay, cool. All right, glad to have you here, brother. And you're more than welcome to be here. Okay, let's get back to our study, Tad. And let's go ahead and read. Oh, you already finished, right? Okay, so we're going to go into Acts 22 now. And I'm going to read this one. And I think we might have time to hit 23. I hope we do. Because it kind of goes hand in hand here. But okay, everybody's muted. Okay, so here we go. Acts 22 now. Men, brothers, and fathers, hear my defense before you now. And when they heard that he spoke to them in the Hebrew language, they kept greater silence. And he said, I am indeed a Yehudi, having been born in Tarsus of Cilicia, but brought up in this city at the feet of Gamaliel, having been instructed according to the exactness of the Torah of our fathers, being ardent for Elohim, as you all are today, who persecuted this way to the death, binding and delivering up into prisons both men and women, as also the high priest bears me witness, and all the eldership, from whom I also received letters to the brothers, and went to Damascus to bring in chains even those who were there in Jerusalem to be punished. And it came to be, okay. Let me pause here for a second. So what's Paul doing? He's trying to clear his name, right? So look, I'm not doing any of this stuff you guys are accusing me of. Okay. So he's trying to clear his name, and he's speaking to them in the Hebrew tongue, the proof that he grew up as a Hebrew. He grew up being taught by the Pharisees, and he knows the Torah. He's not violating it, and he's just clearing his name and letting them know who he is. And so now, this is the part that I'd like to really concentrate on. Really, I think this is probably the most important part of the whole thing today. And this is going back to Acts 9, where we had read about him being blinded on the road of Damascus. And remember, we spoke about that, and we said that, yeah, the man was sent to him in order for two things. Yahusha sent him over there to Paul so he may regain his sight and be immersed in the Ruach HaKodesh. Okay, and he was hungry. He sat back down and started eating to gain his strength. So we know he didn't go running out of that room, running around trying to find a pool to be immersed in. He sat back down and gained his strength by eating and drinking because he hadn't eaten and drank for 3 days. Remember all that? Okay, so now he's going to give us another account of it. There's 3 accounts. This is the second. It's not the original. Okay, the original's back in chapter 9. What happened. This is just him recounting what happened, okay? Probably some years later, no doubt. And so here in this particular chapter 22, we get the most precise explanation of what happened to Paul. He adds things that he didn't add in chapter, that we didn't even know about in the original event in chapter 9. As we get into the third, we're going to see that he's saying a whole lot less, but he does add something else that he doesn't say in the original account or the second recount. Okay, so very interesting here. I'm going to go through it real slow so we get it. If you read through it fast, you're going to miss it. Okay, so here we go. And it came to be, well, I thought somebody had their hand up. And it came to be as I was journeying and coming near Damascus about noon. That about noon's important. Think about it. About noon, right? Midday. Abruptly, a great light shone around me out of the sky. Okay, so this light appears to Paul out of the sky. It's noon, so the sun's pretty much straight overhead, and then this other light appears. So it's not the sun. It's totally different from the sun, okay? And I fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to me, Sheol, Sheol, why do you persecute me? And I answered, who are you, Master? And he said to me, I am Yahusha of Nazareth, whom you persecute. Okay, so this light that Paul saw was what? The sun? It was Yahusha of Nazareth, manifesting himself to Paul as what? Light. A great light. Okay. And those who were with me indeed saw the light and were afraid, but they did not hear his voice speaking to me. Now, if we look at Acts 9:3, we see the opposite being proclaimed, right? We went through that. And what we're seeing here is humanity on display. All right. It's not that Paul's confused of what happened. He's think about what's pressure Paul's under right now, too. Right? They're wanting to kill him. So now he tried to clear his name, his good name, and maybe he's getting things a little mixed up because, he's under a lot of pressure here But I think even more so, it's probably just humanity. You know, he's saying one thing but meaning the other. He got them reversed. You know, there's no conflict here other than humanity on display, which is kind of cool in a way, because it shows that we're not perfect. We're humans, and humans err, right? None of us know everything. None of us are perfect in our flesh, for sure. Okay, so anyway, we all do that. We all say something, and then somebody will say, did you mean this? And you go, what did I say? Oh, I didn't mean that. You know, and we don't even realize we said something wrong, really, until somebody points it out. So there's no conflict here. People say, oh, there's a conflict, you know, or it's contradicting, you know, it means it's not, scriptures ain't real. No, it's not. He's under severe pressure here. They're wanting to kill him. There's a mob wanting to take him and kill him. I would be under a lot of stress and pressure too, trying to speak to this crowd, you know. And so it's been some years, and so maybe he doesn't quite remember quite right either, and maybe it's just a miss words. He misquoted himself. That's all. There's no big deal here. But they did not hear his voice speaking to me. And I said, what shall I do, master? And the master said to me, rise up, go into Damascus, and there you shall be told all that you have been appointed to do. And as I could not see because of the esteem of that light, being led by the hand of those who were with me, I came into Damascus. So Paul, who did not believe in Yahushua, just like these people are trying to kill him, needed to see this light to believe. Right? He needed a huge sign. He needed something, a bomb to fall on top of his head for him to believe in Yahushua, and he did. It was Yahushua himself. And he was, not only did he have to see the light of Yahushua to believe, he had to be blinded by the light. I mean, it went to the extreme. Okay, it wasn't good enough that he just saw the light, went like this. He saw that light and it blinded him because the esteem of that light was so powerful. So he had to be blinded by the light before he believed. I mean, you know, he was persecuting the brothers, man. He was hunting them down like dogs. Okay. And as I could not see because of the esteem of that light, being led by the hand of those who were with me, I came into Damascus. And a certain Cananiah, a dedicated man, according to the Torah, he obeyed the Torah, Yahuwah, being well spoken of by all the Yehudim dwelling there, came to me. So this was a good man. And stood by and said to me, Brother Shaul, look up. And at that same hour, I looked up at him. And he said, the Elohim of our fathers has appointed you to know his desire and to see the righteous one. Wow. So he desired for him to not only to know his desire, but to see the righteous one, which is who? Yahusha. So he saw Yahusha when he saw the light. There was no doubt in his mind that Yahusha spoke to him. And to hear the voice of his mouth. So he spoke to him and told him, it is I, Yahusha. So Paul had no doubt what he was seeing at this point, right? And who this light was. Because he didn't know who he was at first, he had to ask, who are you, master? So he didn't identify. He was just seeing a bright light, not a form, not a human form. He had to ask. So, and to see the righteous one and to hear the voice from his mouth. Because you shall be his witness to all men of what you have seen and heard. So this is testimony. That's Paul's testimony. And now, why do you delay? Rise up. Okay. So here we know that it says that Paul looked up, and at the same hour I looked up at him, so then he could see. So he's telling him, after this guy said that, I could see. So he got his eyesight back. In chapter 9, it doesn't say that. It says something a little bit differently, but this is still the same testimony, okay? And so he got his eyesight back. And then it says, why do you delay? Which 9 did say that. It does say that in chapter 9. Rise up. Now, so, rise up, be immersed, comma. Okay, so rise up, be immersed is when he got the Ruach HaKodesh. Remember? He rose up and he was immersed, chapter 9, with the Ruach. He was in a room somewhere. Okay, and then there's a comma there. Now, here's where Paul gives us more detail of what happened that day in chapter 9 that we didn't know about in chapter 9. And wash away your sins, calling on the name of Yahushua. Okay, so what is this? This sounds more like a water immersion now. Okay, go ahead, Toria.
It said, call on the name of Yahuwah.
That's interesting, isn't it? Very good point. Yeah, calling on the name of Yahuwah, and wash away your sins, calling on the name of Yahuwah. Remember that in chapter 9, he ate and gained back his strength. He had fasted for 3 days, and he didn't eat or drink for 3 days and 3 nights. Remember that? So then he ate and gained strength. Okay, he's not telling us this. He's saying, rise up, be immersed, comma. That's all we know in chapter 9, other than he sat back down and ate to gain strength. Now, all of a sudden, he's adding something here. And wash away your sins, calling on the name of Yahuwah. So this sounds more to me now like a water immersion. So I think what Paul is telling us here is that after he ate and drank and gained back his strength, he went down and found a body of water and self-immersed himself. He immersed himself. He did a self-immersion, calling on the name of Yahuwah. But he had already received the Ruach first, because that's why Canon Yah was sent there, to do those 2 things. That was his mission. Lay hands on him so he can see, and so he could receive the Ruach HaKodesh. That was the mission of Canon Yah, which was fulfilled in chapter 9. But this is added. So to me, this is telling us that after Paul ate and he gained his strength, what happened next was he went down and found a body of water and immersed himself in the name of Yahushua, or Yahuwah, calling on the name of Yahuwah. So here Paul has completed the obedience, right? He's went through the cleansing process. He's got the Ruach, got his eyesight back. He's gained his strength. These are some of the things we didn't realize in chapter 9. It's going to be real interesting now with keeping all this in mind when we get to chapter 26. It's really going to be amazing. Okay, so keep all that in mind there. It doesn't say that he washed away his sins, calling the name of Yahuwah in chapter 9. It just says that he sat back down and he ate and drank and gained back his strength. So we got a pretty decent picture now of what happened to Paul back in chapter 9. All right, so let's continue on. And it came to be when I returned to Jerusalem, and while I was praying in the set apart place, I came to be in a trance, and I saw him saying to me, hurry and get out of Jerusalem speedily, because they shall not accept your witness concerning me. Wow, huh? And I said, Master, they know that in every congregation I was imprisoning and beating those who believe on you. And when the blood of your witness Stephanos was shed, I also was standing by giving my approval to his death and keeping the garments of those who were killing him. And he said to me, Go, because I shall send you far from here to the nations. And they were listening to him until this word, and then they lifted up their voice, saying, Away with such a one from the Eretz, for it is not fit that he should live. All right. Yeah. And as they were shouting and tearing their garments and throwing dust into the air, the commander ordered him to be brought into the barracks and said that he should be examined by flogging in order to find out why they were shouting so against him. So the Romans are still not understanding why everybody's after Paul and want to kill him. Amazingly, isn't it? After Paul gave his testimony of what happened on the road to Damascus, he saw that light and it said that was Yahusha. They're going more crazy now. They're tearing their clothes, kicking up dust, screaming and hollering. They want Paul. They want to kill him. He's blaspheming. He's a liar. He's just saying that. That didn't happen. It's blah, blah, blah. What lie? He saw the sun. He's lying. He looked at the sun too long and went blind. Can you imagine the things they are saying? I mean, they're throwing dust into the air. They're ripping their clothes off. They're screaming to give him over so we can kill him because he told them they saw it, because he told them he saw a light. And the light identified him as Yahusha. Isn't that amazing? That's mind-blowing stuff, man. Very powerful to grasp this. So as they were stretching him out with straps, then I hear they got Paul. They're going to flog him, right? They've got straps on him, stretching him out to get ready to torture poor Paul because he saw a light. Paul said to the captain who was standing by, with all this going on to somebody, we can start to begin to understand why his story is not real clear, why he's mixing things up, and he's under a lot of pressure. Put yourself in his shoes. It's plain and easy to see why Paul is under a lot of stress and anxiety here, and why he's talking fast. He's not really explaining things. He didn't say, I received my eyesight back, and then he laid his hands on me, and I received the Ruach HaKodesh. Man, I was so tired I couldn't stay standing up, so I just fell back down on my chair, and he handed me some food and water, and I started to eat to gain back my strength. And then after I had my strength back and my mind was back right, and I realized everything that was going on, I went down and I went and found a pool somewhere down here, and I immersed myself in water in the name of Yahuwah, calling on the name of Yahuwah. And then I went about my business spreading the Besorah of Yahusha, which I knew to do at that point. He didn't have time to say all that. He didn't have time to say all that. He was under a severe stress. And no wonder he got those words mixed up about people around him, what happened to them. He wasn't thinking, he wasn't trying to be real careful about his story. He was trying to save his life. And telling these, but he could only tell them the truth, right? He told them the truth, but what happened? What happened? Because he told them the truth. he was being assassinated even more. Because they didn't even love the truth, man. When they heard the truth, it infuriated them even more. Wow. Okay. As they were stretching him out with straps, Paul said to the captain who was standing by, "Is it lawful for you to whip a man who is a Roman and uncondemned?" And when the captain heard, he went and reported to the commander, saying, "Watch what you are about to do, for this man is a Roman." So here we go. Paul has told the crowd that he was not the one that led the 4,000 out into the wilderness. He was not a Mitzrite. He was a Yehudim. Now he's telling these people, I'm a Roman. Is Paul cuckoo? No. Paul had dual citizenship. His mother was a Yehudi. He was taught by the Pharisees, and his father was a Roman. So he had dual citizenship to his father, though he was raised where? In Israel. He was raised around his mother's people. That's why he became the Pharisee of Pharisees, because he was taught by the Pharisees. All right. And having come, the commander said to him, "Say to me, are you a Roman?" And he said, "Yes." And the commander answered, with a large sum I obtained this citizenship. And Paul said, "But I was even born so." So here this commander was not even a Roman citizen. He had to pay money and buy himself to be a Roman citizen. And he's commander in the Roman army, right? Paul says, "Nah, I was born Roman." Ooh, that's even more powerful, right? Than even the commander. I'm a born Roman, man. I didn't have to pay nothing. I was born a Roman citizen. Then at once those who were about to examine him withdrew from him. And the commander was also afraid after he found out that he was a Roman, and because he had bound him. Right. And on the next Yom, intending to know for certain why he was accused by the Yehudim, he released him and commanded the chief priest and all their council to come, and brought Paul down and set him before them. All right. So, extremely powerful verse, man, chapter. So we could see now, by putting ourselves in Paul's shoes, what Paul was going through here, and why this certainly is not a contradiction in scriptures. We should all see that. Okay? All right. Let's go to 23. Need one more reader, because it kind of goes along with what we're reading here, and we'll get it out of the way. So anybody want to read 23? Toria, go ahead.
Okay. And Paul, looking intently at the council, said, "Men, brothers, I have lived in all good conscience before Elohim until this Yom." And the high priest Cananiah commanded those who stood by him to strike him on the mouth. Then Paul said to him, "Elohim is going to strike you, whitewashed wall. And do you sit judging me according to the Torah? And do you command me to be struck contrary to the Torah?" And those who stood by said, "Do you revile the high priest of Elohim?" And Paul says, "I did not know, brothers, that he was the high priest, for it has been written, you shall not speak evil of the ruler of your people."
Okay,
Now,
hang on a minute. I got to point this out. Can you mute yourself temporarily, Toria? This is amazing. Now here we're talking about Paul, who was raised and taught by the Pharisees. He was a Pharisee of Pharisees. He was a henchman sent out by the high priest to dig up all the followers of Yahusha. And are we to believe that Paul did not know that this man that struck him was the high priest? Of course Paul knew. Come on. The high priest had different garments than the other chief priests. He was identified by his wardrobe that he was the high priest. Paul knew who the high priest was. If anybody knew, it was Paul. He was a Pharisee of Pharisees. He was told by the high priest to go find the followers of Yahusha. What does this mean? He did not know. I'll tell you what I think it means. In my opinion, Paul had bad eyesight. He was inflicted by bad eyesight. And he couldn't see clearly who the man was that struck him until somebody said, that was the high priest you're talking about. Is this the thorn that's in the flesh of Paul? Was Paul was stricken by a demon? Was it bad eyesight that plagued Paul? Why did Paul reach down? This is going off on a tangent now, but why did Paul, when he was collecting firewood after the shipwreck, after they were shipwrecked, why did Paul reach down and pick up a snake, mistaking it for a piece of wood? Was it because of bad eyesight? It's a good possibility here. Just a thought. Go ahead, Toria.
Okay, verse 6. Now Paul, perceiving that one part were Sadducees and the other Pershim, cried out in the council, Men, brothers, I am a Pershim, the son of a Pershim. I am being judged concerning the expectation and resurrection of the dead. And when he had said this, there came a dissension between the Pershim and the Sadducees, and the throng was divided. For the Sadducees say that there is no resurrection, nor messenger, nor ruach, but the Pershim confess both.
Okay, stop you right there. That's kind of important. Okay, so the council, the Sadducees and the Pharisees here, the council here is mixed. It's called the Sanhedrin, and they're the ruling class. They rule over the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Okay, it's called the Sanhedrin. There were more Sadducees than Pharisees of the Sanhedrin. So the Sadducees were the ones that were ruling. They had the power in the temple. The Pharisees were out on the street corners teaching their religion, if you will, which would be Orthodox Judaism at the time, really, their form of it, out of the Talmud mostly. So these people were divided because the Sadducees didn't believe in the resurrection, nor messengers. They didn't even believe in Malachim, nor Ruachs. They didn't even believe in Ruach either. But the Pharisees confessed both. They believed in the resurrection and messengers and the Ruach. Okay, so here Paul, being a Pharisee of Pharisees and understanding what these people thought, what they believed the religion was able to divide them. Okay, and by doing so, now he's got them arguing between each other instead of pouncing on him. So what's happening? Well, the Pharisees are taking Paul's side. Why? Because Paul's a Pharisee. Paul's father was a Pharisee. And so now they're saying, wait a minute, we changed our mind. He's one of us. And they started defending him against the Sadducees, which did have the majority in the Sanhedrin. at this point. Okay, so you see that? So Paul is a Pharisee, his father's a Pharisee. He knows what the Pharisees believe, so he's using the contrast between them and the Sadducees in order to help himself. So, smart move. Okay? All right, go ahead, Toria.
Okay, verse 9. And there was a great uproar, and a certain of the scribes of the party of Pershim were earnestly contending, saying, We find no evil in this man, and if a ruach or a messenger has spoken to him, let us not fight against Elohim. And a great dissension having come, the commander, fearing lest Paul would be pulled to pieces by them, commanded the body of soldiers to go down and seize him from their midst, and bring him into the compound. And on the following Lila, the master stood by him and said, Take courage, Paul, for as you have witnessed for me in Jerusalem, so you have to bear witness to Rome too. And when it became daylight, some of the Yahudim made a conspiracy and bound themselves under an oath, saying that they would neither eat nor drink until they had killed Paul. Those making this conspiracy were more than 40, who having come to the chief priests and elders said, We have bound ourselves under a great oath not to eat at all until we have killed Paul. Now then, you, with the council, inform the commander to have him brought down to you tomorrow, as intending to examine more exactly all about him. And we are ready to kill him before he comes near. And when Paul's sister's son heard of their ambush, he went and entered into the barracks and reported to Paul. And Paul, having called one of the captains to him, said, Take this young man to the commander, for he has somewhat to report to him. He indeed then took him and led him to the commander and said, The prisoner Paul called me to him and asked me to bring this young man to you, having somewhat to say to you. And the commander, having taken him by the hand, went aside by themselves and asked, What is that you have to report to me? And he said, The Yahudim have agreed to ask that you bring Paul down to the council tomorrow, as intending to inquire more exactly about him. Therefore, do not let them persuade you, for more than 40 of them lie in wait for him, men who have bound themselves by an oath neither to eat nor to drink until they have killed him. And now they are ready, waiting for the promise from you. Then the commander dismissed the young man, having commanded him, Inform no one that you reported this to me. And having called near a certain 2 captains, he said, Get 200 soldiers ready to go to Caesarea, and 70 horsemen and 200 spearsmen after the 3rd hour of the Lila, and provide beasts on which a place Paul, and bring him safely to Felix the governor. Having written a letter in this form, Claudius Lysias, to the most excellent governor Felix, greetings. This man, having been seized by the Yahudim, and being about to be killed by them, I rescued, having come with a body of soldiers, having learned that he was a Roman, and desiring to know the reason why they accused him, I brought him before their council. I found out that he was accused concerning questions of their Torah, but there was no charge against him deserving death or chains. And when I was informed that there was to be a plot against the man by the Yahudim, I sent him immediately to you, having also commanded his accusers to state before you the charges against him. Be strong. So the soldiers, as they were commanded, took Paul and brought him by Lila to Antipatris, and on the next Yom they left the horsemen to go on with him and returned to the compound, who, having come to Caesarea and delivered the letter to the governor, they also presented Paul to him. And the governor, having read it, and having asked of what province he was, and being informed that he was from Cilicia, said, I shall hear you when your accusers arrive also. And he ordered him to be kept in Herod's palace.
All right. Thank you, Toria. All right. So that brings us, I think, to the end of the Sabbath study here today. And we can see now very clearly what's happening to Paul. Okay. It's after he's been out working hard in the harvest. He's been trying to convert both Yehudi and Greek. He's been beaten up, and a lot of bad things has happened to Paul, and now he has come into a big trouble right now, right? And you can see that the Ruach is leading Paul. You know, first thing he was able to do was talk, give his testimony in Hebrew, and then he was able to manipulate the Sanhedrin to where the Pharisees sided with Paul. And now he has revealed that he's a Roman, and so that grants him some protection because of his citizenship, but yet he is still in the system. He's still being captive by the Romans. He's been taken to be heard again by someone else. And Paul's in some sorts of trouble here. So it gets interesting as we read on here how he gets out of this trouble. Go ahead, Toria.
I just happened to notice that there was the 40 that were waiting for him, that they ate nothing and they drank nothing. And that's when he decided to send the 200 because he knew they were weak.
Yeah, he knew that the 40 was out to kill Paul, and they had taken an oath not to eat or sleep. Now, does that mean they starved themselves to death? Because they never did kill Paul. I wonder if they all died of starvation. Did they keep their oath, you think? They just died because they couldn't kill Paul? I doubt it. They probably, after they couldn't find him, they said, man, I'm not going to die over this dude. And they probably went and started eating, right? More than likely. Hey, maybe they didn't. Maybe they kept their oath and they all just died of starvation and hydration, who knows? But yeah, that's why he guarded him so heavily with 200 Roman guards and horsemen, because he knew those 40 were out to kill Paul. And he didn't want anything to do with that. So, yeah, they're guarding him, but they still have him in captivity. He's their prisoner still. Paul he's doing really great right now, dealing with all this betrayal and all these accusations and everybody out to kill him. But he does stick his foot in his mouth. And we're going to read about that. He does make a mistake. Okay. But it ends up being okay. The Ruach straightens the situation up as we read. But he does make a mistake. Okay, so we'll open it up now for questions, comments, testimonies, anything anybody wants to talk about. It's wide open now. Go ahead, William.
I don't know if anybody else, I'm sure other people see this here. When it says that I found out that he was accused concerning questions of their Torah, we're going back up to verse 8, where both the Sadducees say that there's no resurrection, nor messenger, nor ruach, but the Pharisees admitted both. So they were both in agreement that there was no resurrection and that there was no messenger that was going to come and speak the through of the ruach about the Torah as the living Torah. So there was no messenger in Yahusha coming to speak about the truth in spirit of the Torah. Okay. Now maybe I'm looking at this wrong, but if you go back and you look at verse 3 in 22:3, Paul makes it really clear when he comes into this wisdom and this knowledge, you know, through the ruach that was put on him by Yahuwah himself. He says, according to the exactness of the Torah of our fathers, being ardent for Elohim, as you all are today, speaking to the Sadducees and the Pharisees, who persecuted this way to the death, persecuted this way, the message, the Besorah, the true Torah, to death through their false belief. That's, once again, the spirit that we've been talking about here of the booger man at play here. You know, is anybody else seeing that? The confiscate. I think this is the early stages of confiscation of the true gospel by the circus fathers as this system is being brought about. The gospel, the true Beshorah is being confiscated at this point. Paul preaching the true gospel is, you know, being kind of looked at probably as a hypocrite. You know, oh, wait a minute, 1 minute you're standing over here and you're in complete agreement, while we're going to stone Stephen for preaching the gospel, but now you're teaching the same gospel that Stephen was teaching, you know. And I see this kind of as a socially engineered construct, an idea, the confiscation of the truth through this false spirit that lives in the circus fathers. At later dates, we see that coming about, you know, through the Roman Catholic Church, which are still in bed with the Sadducees and the Pharisees today. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but this way to the death here is speaking of the Besorah of Yahusha. You know, they didn't have it in writing. It was a new thing, and that Paul was trying to teach. And the whole conflict was that they were accusing Paul of false doctrine, that he wasn't teaching now the Torah and the prophets, so he was condemning it in their mind, and Paul was not. And what he was trying to say was, look, I had learned, I was given instructions. I obeyed the Torah. I obeyed the prophets. I never violated the Torah. I'm not arguing against the Torah. What I'm saying is the Messiah has come now. Okay. And there's a new way for us to be delivered through our Messiah. And so this way, to do who prosecuted this way to the death would be this way, meaning the way of the Natsarim or the Besorah of Yahusha, you know, which Paul is now a member of. Matter of fact, he's accused of being the ringleader of the way, as we'll read later on. And so go ahead, Toria.
Wow, you caught that quick. I think this is a great example for us of today that we struggle with. We follow Yahuwah and Yahusha and the world today, because part of our life was of the world and now it is not. So we all come from Rome, essentially, coming out of it into Yahuwah, Yahusha. We were also in that same place.
Yeah, it continues on, doesn't it? Like we can relate to Paul very well because it continues on. You know, the world hates us. It hated Yahusha. It's going to hate us. You know, and it's hating Paul right now quite a bit, right? And Paul just happens to be in the initiative of it all, and we're on the back end of it all. But it has continued. Why? because it's being led by the spirit of the anti-Mashiach. That's why. We lost Ted. He's not trying to come back on here. Okay, so to continue with William there on 8:23:8, for the and when he had said this, there came a dissension between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the throng was divided. So he's created this division now, and we learned later that the Pharisees took Paul's side. Why? Because he was a Pharisee himself, and so was his father, right? His mother was a Yehudim. His father was a Roman, or is that correct? I am a Prussian, the son of a Prussian Pharisee. I am being judged concerning the expectations. Was it Paul's father that was a Roman, or was it his mother? Because how could his father be a Pharisee if he was a Roman? I just caught that. Anybody know? I can't hear you, Rule. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just about to ask you that question because then Yami and I were thinking, I think his grandfather was Pharisee on his mother's side, but his dad was Roman. Because that's what he said, that I'm a Roman citizen.
Now, do you know, Lou? It's kind of weird. I just caught that.
I had caught it. I was about to ask.
Yeah. That's kind of weird. I've never really caught that before. Go ahead, Toria.
Wouldn't a man, because a man has to take his father's lineage and name, it would have been his father?
Yeah, I know somewhere I read that his father was a Roman citizen. Now, what it could be is that his lineage, say his father or his grandfather, was a Yehudi, but they were dispersed into Rome. And so since they were living in Rome, or maybe born in Rome, although they were a Yehudi, they got Roman citizenship, which passed down to Paul. But really they were Yehudim, bloodlines, and so therefore he could be a Pharisee, because even Paul was a Pharisee and he was a Roman citizen as well, right? So there must be something there in their law that allowed that. See what I'm saying? So they had to be Yehudim, but yet they somehow had gained Roman citizenship. And Paul said, I was born a Roman because his father had Roman citizenship, because maybe they lived in Rome. And that's how they got their Roman citizenship. Maybe his father was born in Rome and automatically got Roman citizenship. And then he requested to go back to live in Israel. And then he married the Yehudi woman. That's probably what's going on there. Hang on a second. Go ahead, Yosef.
Yes. Ted or Todd or that guy's trying to get back in.
The more I think about it, I think that's what it was. And I'd read something about that years ago, and it's kind of foggy in my brain, but I think that's what it was. That's why when they came back to Israel, they were allowed to be Pharisees because of their lineage, not because of the Roman citizenship didn't delete the lineage, the bloodline. Okay, so I think that's what it was, if I recall. Okay, so anyway, going back down to 8 here. Now, for the Sadducees say there is no resurrection, nor messenger, nor ruach. See, they didn't believe in any of that. They were very fleshly minded. They had no spiritual insight. They were spiritually blind, and they were living in the dust. They were dustmen with the mind of the flesh. And that's all. Very strict, very literal. They don't want to hear anything about spirits. ghost, resurrection of the dead, anything that was outside of the norm or outside of our human reality, they didn't want anything to do with that. Okay. But the Pharisees did. They said, oh, no, there's the resurrection of the dead. There's Ruachs. There's the Ruach HaKodesh. There's manifestations. How about everything that happened to us in the wilderness? Did you forget about that? So they believed in this supernatural stuff. And so Paul was raised in them, so he picked up on their beliefs. Not the Sadducees. The Sadducees were stringent, strict for the rules, man. Anything outside of our human reality, we don't believe none of that. Don't even start that stuff. So the two big difference between the people, and so I think that, but the Pharisees confessed both means that they believed in, the messengers, the Malachim and the Ruach HaKodesh and spirits and stuff, that there was another dimension, a spiritual dimension outside of our carbon reality. Okay. I think that's what this is saying more, William. I mean, but I understand what you're saying. I'm with you on what you're saying. I understand fully. But I think maybe just a little too much, William, just a little bit too much off track there. You're not way far out there, but you just, I think, stepping off of the path there just a little bit. Big bangers? Yeah. Yeah, the big bangers. Lou, you want to call out? You want to elaborate a little bit on the?
Oh yeah, you mean the issue that Paul was part Roman citizen and of the lineage of the Yahudi. Well, yeah, that's what he is, and a person's citizenship with a nation doesn't mean that they were born in the capital city, but he claims that he was born in what's now Turkey, and Paul of Tarsus is actually most likely Paul's birthplace, but being in the Roman Empire and being born in that Roman Empire, that made him a Roman citizen by birth. He wasn't, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, born in some other country and then he became a citizen of the United States. He pledged allegiance to a ball and an eagle and a flag, and that made him a citizen. Ceremonially, it was a ceremonial thing, for Arnold. By the way, Arnold's a couple of years older than me, so you got to pray for him. Anyway, Paul's citizenship, though, was obviously because he was in the empire, He wasn't a foreigner, but a lot of these people were captives. The Romans captured them or killed them. They gave them the peace of Rome. That peace of Rome meant that they were killed. Any rebellions that popped up in the empire, they just sent these guys out and took them all out. But they enslaved the people. In fact, Rome, itself, the city of Rome, was 80% slaves. And they were captives that were drugged back, and they served their masters. They were probably having auctioned off, or some of them were bequeathed slaves. But 80% of the population was slaves. And it could have been that this man, the commander, was purchasing his citizenship that way, because he was a captured person. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know for sure how Paul and his father had Roman citizenship, or even if his father did. It just says his father was a Pharisee, but then we know that Paul did have Roman citizenship. So however he became a Roman doesn't really matter. The fact that he is a Roman matters, because that's getting Paul out of a lot of hot water. However he obtained this Roman citizenship. But we also know that he was Yehudi, and so was his father, because they were Pharisees. So interesting. And that's all we really need to know in order to continue with truth. We can guess all day long how Paul obtained Roman citizenship, and any of them would be valid as long as they're real, it's a reality way, it's a real way that could happen. And so, it's interesting, that, and to try to figure out how he did get that. But he said he was born into it. So that's a clue, right? That's a clue that he was born a Roman. So that seems to me he had to either be in Rome when he was born to gain that citizenship, or he inherited through one of his parents, most likely his father. So that's a clue, but we still don't really know for sure. Like Lou was suggesting there, that the whole area was Roman Empire, So maybe I don't think that gave them automatic Roman citizenship, but it may have in certain precincts, like say if they came from a Roman, fort or something. Born in a Roman fort, which would be like a ambassadors, type thing or whatever, and that was considered Roman territory within them walls. Maybe he was born in something like that, and he got it. So we really don't know, but it's interesting to think about it and talk about it. Go ahead, Lou.
I was just remembering how people refer to Roman Catholics or Catholics as being something that's like a bloodline or something, And Arnold Schwarzenegger was born in Austria, but became an American citizen, a citizen of the United States, actually. An American can be a South American or any one of 22 countries below the Rio Grande, and it includes Canadians. Canadians are Americans. The word American is misunderstood a lot by the media. They assume that people are thinking about the United States of America. But that citizenship concept is not a bloodline. People are washing back and forth and wandering. There's people that are born in one country, like Africa, and then they go to Hawaii, and then they become president of the United States. It's just, a mixed up world, but it doesn't make you who you are, It's, there's another guy, Elon Musk. He popped up here on the channel here today. I don't know if you noticed or not, but he was the one on there for the longest period before we had to kick him off. But his citizenship, he was born in South Africa, and then he moved to Canada, and then he became educated here in the United States. He's about 50, 51, 50, I don't know. He's in his 50s.
Yeah, that's interesting. The fact that I liked what you said about lineage, so it didn't affect the lineage. The lineage was important for what? For him to be a Pharisee. So there's where the lineage is important. And so somehow that Roman citizenship did not affect the lineage of him being able to be a Pharisee, because you had to come from the line of Aaron, right? Through the Levite line to be a Pharisee. And so that lineage is important, even more so than the Roman citizenship. But for Paul right now, all this trouble he's in, that Roman citizenship is very important to him, because that's what's going to get him out of trouble. Go ahead, Lou.
Yeah, he's not really of the Aharonic line. That's the Levitical line. He's from the tribe of Benjamin. That's Paul. He's not associated with Moshe or Aharon. It's a common thing for people to group everybody into the tribe of Yehuda by calling them Jews. And that's a mistake, because we're all mixed up, and Abraham's seed is like everybody. Now it's impossible to track us. Okay, so does that mean that they don't have to come from the Levite line to be a Pharisee or Sadducee? That any tribe can do that?
Or just
Yes, that's basically it. Because Paul admitted that he was of the tribe of Benjamin, and he's not of the tribe of Yehuda. He's the 12 tribes. We're collectively the scattered tribes are referred to as Ephraim in the scriptures. That's just the lead tribe. We're Reubenites and Danites and all sorts of different tribes, but we're all mixed in. But yeah, anybody could become a Parashim.
okay, I got you. So he couldn't be a chief priest or a high priest. He had to come from the Aaron line to do that, but he could be a Pharisee. Okay. All right, everybody got that? Thanks, Lou. Anybody else? Yami, Rule, do you have something, brother?
I think it's called naturalized citizen because I am a naturalized citizen.
Okay. Very good. Anybody else got any comments on today's? Go ahead, Tad.
Well, I kind of lost my internet there for a while and got kicked off, so I kind of lost where we were. But I have what might be a stupid question here, but then again, it might not. When we were back in chapter 22, Paul was mentioning the fact that that man, Kenaniah, had come to him and he was spoken well. Now, I just want to make sure, because over in chapter 23, it mentions a Kenaniah as well. But this is a completely different guy. Is that correct? This is the high priest. He's just got the same name, because he orders him to basically punch Paul in the mouth. And so I'm thinking this can't be the same Kenaniah.
No, they're different people.
Okay. I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Don't be shy now. If you got any questions, please ask. That's what we're here for. Go ahead, Phyllis.
It's not a question, but it's the unusual concept that only the Jewish people are confused with, is that a citizenship or is that a religion? And it's the only religion in the world, I think, where we call somebody Jewish, but we're thinking about a nationality, not a religion. Am I explaining myself well? Lou knows what I'm talking about.
Good. Can you elaborate on that, Lou? What's she saying?
Well, yeah, the tribes of Israel are not really a religion at all, as we know, because we define religion differently than most religions do. But the people themselves are of mixed lines of the tribes of Yisrael, and they're blended into the Gentiles, unrecognizable now because of their skin and their body formations, and they've all been, the Hawaiians are, colonies sent out from ships in Solomon's day, as are certain people in South America, Spain, all of the colonies of Israel, which was a sea empire, was filling the Mediterranean area, and then they went out into the Great Sea, which is way out there in the Atlantic, as we call it today. And they have colonies now that we're finding things in the Mound people, and down there in Los Lunas, where Hidden Mountain is. There's another evidence that there was a gate stone there. So there's waymarks, Danube River, London, Scandinavia, Denmark. These are all, parts of the tribes of Israel. This stone that you and your family went to go see, that's behind me here on a blanket, It's waymarks that we left. We were told to leave waymarks so that there would be evidence and something for the future generations. And he left these words written in Hebrew so that we'd be able to call on his name in the last days. And he prophesied that. It was mentioned in Psalm 102 that this is written so that a generation yet to be born would call on the name of Yahuwah. And it's happening now. And we're spreading the word. You know?
Yeah, so true. And I think too that these religions and traditions that are so prominent in our era, it's just something that happened over time, and obviously it spawned out of Judaism, Orthodox Judaism, whatever they were doing at the time there, their way of doing it. And then all the pagan traditions and religions, as people were being converted, started talking to the other people that were in the way and interjecting their beliefs and how they were raised. And then, of course, we all know Constantine, the first really is the one that did the big, huge influx of all the religions and traditions and everything that was in his kingdom, the Roman kingdom empire at the time, and created a lot of tried to create a universal religion out of everything. And then it blew up in his face later on and started growing sprouts out. The gangrene spread, as Lou says. And now we find ourselves in a whirlwind of a mess with religions and traditions and everything all around us. It's hard to come out of it and get away from all of it because we're brainwashed from babies, from children, hearing about all this stuff. So what I like to say is if it's a religion or a tradition, get away from it. None of them are right. They all try to say they're right, that they're the correct religion, but the truth is none of them are right. They're all wrong. So we need to remove ourselves from religions and traditions and superstitions and things like that, and try to seek out the face of Yahuwah and enter into a relationship with him. Okay. And so I think that's important to understand that, get out of the fog, out of the forest, so we can see clearly what's going on, because it's just layer upon layer upon layer now. You peel back one layer and there's another lie. You pull back that one, there's more lies. It just goes deep. So the only way to get out of it is to realize we're living in a delusion created by Satan. And the only way out is to put all religions and all traditions far, far away from us and concentrate on Yahuwah. Anybody else? Is that nobody? No other comments? Is there any questions in the chat room we've missed? Go ahead, Rule.
Comment. Hope that we could continue to do this on Sabbath, because for us, the new ones, we grow with you guys. And if we lose this, it'd be very hard. We're out in the boonies and there's no way for us to really learn. So if it accounts, we would love to continue this. And number two, I think Phyllis has our email, and if she could share it with Mark, so if you have anything, we would know. Thank you all.
Go ahead, Diane. I can get you. Hang on.
I got
Gotcha. Okay.
it. Okay. Yes, please, Phyllis, give Mark my email. Thank you.
I'm making a list, but now Margaret did post Mark's a link for Mark, but Mark's not on the site anymore. So I'll make sure that everybody gets his email.
Yeah, you can send my email out to all the members if you want. You guys can email me anytime you want to. Call me or text me. It don't matter. I'm more than willing to spend time with the beloved of Yahuwah. I find it an honor to speak to each and every one of you. The beloved of Yahuwah, are you kidding me? I would never deny that, speaking to any of you. So you're more than welcome to have my personal email. Anybody else? Okay, I love all of you. And we all need to stay united in Yahusha because we're one body. There's only one Ruach, one Torah, one deliverance, one everlasting covenant. There's no separation in the body of Yahusha. Only if you want to be separated, you know. Nobody has anything else. I'll turn it over to Lou. He can do the priestly blessing for us, and I'll see y'all next weekend then, next Shabbat.
Thank you, everybody, and it's an honor to know Mark and all of you. Yahuwah bless you and guard you. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and show kindness to you. Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon you and give you shalom. Bye. For Baruch haba b'shem Yahuwah.
Melech ha'olam ha'aretz.
So long.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom. Mishpachah.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom. Mishpachah.
Mishpacha.